Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining me today. I have with me a wonderful trombonist, interesting composer, I have to admit, and a very versatile performer. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Micah Hood. Micah,
Oh,
welcome to
nice.
the show.
Very, very nice to be here, Michael. Thank you for having
Oh,
me.
oh, you're very welcome. I have been trying to do this for the longest time, and we were laughing about it because I think I sent you that letter over a year ago
Something
asking if
about,
you
yeah,
wanted to.
that's about right. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I was like, I got an email back from you saying, well, sure, I'd like to do this. I'm like, okay, that's dated like a year ago.
Yeah, it was
But
kind of out of the
anyway,
blue, but I'm glad that we reconnected. I think it somehow got lost in the sea of my inbox, you know. But
well,
uh, but then but then I ended up looking at my inbox, kind of cleaning it out a little bit. I was just like, I need to reply to Michael about this.
I appreciate it. I
Yeah,
appreciate it very much. Listen, I got a lot of questions for you, so let's get
sure.
started. So you're from Weatherford, Texas.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
where is Weatherford in reference to Dallas?
With Dallas, I mean, it's a huge area. The whole DFW area is huge. But if you keep going west, Fort Worth, of course, then you keep going west of that, there's a little town called Aledo. That's where I grew up, but the address is technically part of Weatherford. So it's on the west side of Fort Worth. It was back then. It was real rural, lots of farmland and things like that. But that's where it's at, west side of Fort Worth.
Okay, so what, about an hour west of Fort
About,
Worth?
it's about an hour west of Dallas, actually.
Oh, okay.
About 20 minutes from downtown Fort Worth.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And is it like right off of I-40 or is it south of
Um,
I-40?
it's where I-30 and I-20 meet. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So
It's around
that
that
helps
area.
people out. That'll help people out so they understand exactly where it is. Because yeah, Dallas is nowhere near I-40. I don't know why I said that. That's way
That's New
south.
Mexico talking right there. That's
Yeah, you'll have to excuse me. So you grew up in a small town, as you said it was Aledo. Is that what it
Aledo.
is?
Yeah, I went to Aledo High School. I was in that school all throughout my life. Yeah.
Okay. So did you grow up in a musical family, or were you kind of like the sole musical person in the family?
Yeah, I did grow up in a musical family. My dad was a guitarist. My mom is a mandolin player. She's also a singer and a pianist. She played piano for our church growing up, and then my cousins have, or at least growing up, they had a bluegrass band.
Wow.
And then my older brother and my younger brother are both tubists. Of course, I'm a trombonist. My older brother is also a bassist. So we have a lot going on in our
Yeah.
family.
Yeah, you did grow up in a musical family,
For
didn't
sure.
you?
Well, we
So,
had music around us all the time. Yeah.
so what got you started on was trombone your first instrument or was it something else?
Trombone was my first instrument, my first primary instrument, besides like growing up and doing recorder in elementary school and things like that. Learning the mechanics of music. But yeah, I went into the band program in sixth grade at Aledo Middle School, and we had a instrument tryout night, or whatever. I'm sure you've heard this story many times, but I didn't.
I'm a former educator. Yes, I know.
so so in sixth grade, I had a couple of different instruments on my list of things to try out, and it turned out that my uncle played trombone, and that's where I got my first trombone, was from him after doing that band tryout night and figuring out that everything worked great, that my embouchure and aperture fit really well with the horn, and from there, we had a family reunion that summer, and I got my first trombone from my uncle.
Oh,
And
nice.
yeah, the rest is history, I guess.
Well,
Starting that
something
out.
like that. So what? So so you went all through high school, all through middle school, and all through high school. You did band, you did jazz band, you were heavily involved with music.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So I did everything that I could, as much as I could with music. We did, all region in middle school, all state in high school. We did. I mean, I did. I also started piano in high school, and did music theory and music technology in high school. Did AP music theory, as much music with band as I could do. And we even did like the musicals.
Oh yeah.
That was a lot of fun. But marching band, concert season, the whole gamut.
Okay.
That's
So
was
you were
heavily
heavily
involved.
involved with
Oh,
music.
and
You
so were
sound
my parents. They were band parents, like as band parentee as you can get.
That's all. That was actually a good thing, not a bad thing.
Oh,
You
not
may
at
have
all.
you may have thought back then it was a bad thing, but really to have the parents involved with the band program is a blessing in disguise.
Oh,
Trust
we
me.
were very blessed for that to happen. For all three of us siblings
Nice.
here.
So after high school, and see if I get this correct. After high school, you attended Texas Tech,
That's right.
and you were majoring in music.
Yeah, so I majored in music performance at Texas Tech. I studied under Jim Decker. Originally, it was odd because that was a season where they actually flipped over who was going to be professor there. Don Lucas was originally the professor at Texas Tech whenever I auditioned, and then he broke the news to me right after the audition, like a couple of months later. He broke the news to me that he was going to be moving to Boston, and I was just like, well, who am I going to study with? Like, what is, I still wanted to go to Texas Tech because I went to band camp there for a number of years, and I got to know the campus and got to know the people and the staff and the faculty. But I didn't know what I was getting into. But then Jim Decker shows up, and I learned not only a ton, but he's also a very good friend and mentor. So I'm so happy with my education there. But
Oh,
I did
nice.
music performance. Uh, I did music performance while I was there, just trombone performance specifically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm assuming were you doing classical? Were you doing jazz? What were you doing at all? What were you doing?
Well, I originally wanted to do more orchestral kind of training, so it was basically all classical, and soloist kind of stuff, giving recitals and doing things in chamber groups like the trombone choir, and but I didn't do any jazz courses. But Mr. Decker, Jim, he had us once a week memorize tunes as part of our curriculum. So I was basically getting improvisatory and tune-based learning all the time, just as part of our studio and lessons. So in that aspect, yes, I was studying jazz a little bit, but not formally.
Okay, so
Yeah,
mostly classical and mostly
that's right.
performance.
Yeah.
Okay. So in 2012, let's see if I got to get this correct, because in 2012 you were a finalist for the Frank Smith solo competition in Paris.
That's right.
Did I get that right?
That's
So
it. Yeah.
tell me about that. Were you still in school at that time, or were
I
you
was in
finished?
graduate school, actually. Yeah, I was in graduate school at that time. I was capped out in my age group. I never did any kind of competitions. And I was kind of lamenting that I didn't do any competitions through undergraduate or, things having to do with like International Trombone Festival. And so I just decided to take a chance and put my recording in. I think it was the Ida Gutkovsky concerto that was the preliminary round that we got recorded. And sent that in, and lo and behold, I was one of three that got chosen in the highest category, like age group, and I was floored. At the same time, the Eastern Trombone Workshop, the same year, uh, had me on a competition as well for a
Oh,
soloist in the highest category too. So it was a very busy summer, but
it's
um, but it was such an honor because this, particularly the ITF. I mean, that's representatives from all over the world that show up, and they flip flop every year whether or not they go to somewhere outside of the states and then they go somewhere in the states for the festival. And this just happened to be the year in 2012 that it was in Paris, and it was an incredible experience.
oh, I bet it was.
I mean, I have. I don't know. I have such great memories from that, and I learned a lot about French musicianship, approach to brass playing, how colorful and how amazingly soulful it is and interesting. And so I picked up a lot of tools just from that competition and that festival there, and not to mention a lot of the historical going around and about, Paris.
Right.
But it was incredible. I thought that was probably my strongest ever classical playing in my career.
Wow.
And I absolutely loved every second of it. Yeah.
So did you go over there by yourself, or did someone come with you? I'm just
Yeah,
curious.
there was somebody that came with me, but not for music purposes or anything like that.
Just to
Just to
keep you
sightsee.
company. Yeah,
Yeah,
that makes sense. Okay. I was just curious because yeah, that's one heck of a way. I couldn't imagine going over there. I'd have to have some sort of soul support.
yeah, yeah. No, it was a long trip.
Someone there.
It was my first trip to Europe, and there was no real culture shock. I felt like I belonged there to a certain degree, and everybody was so welcoming. Even the student trombonists, everybody was just wanting to work together. It wasn't competitive. I got to meet two really great competitors who we still keep in touch. And I mean, really, it was just a great experience all around.
Nice.
And I guess this is more of like encouragement for like younger players. Don't defer it. If you feel like if you, I mean, I learned the hard way, and I capped out. I only got to go 1 year. But if you were even like thinking about going, go. Like
Go.
send it,
Try.
practice your butt off. Send in that application. Send in that tape. See what they say. What's the worst
Right.
they can say?
No,
No,
I mean, yeah, what's the worst
but
they can
that's
say? No,
bad.
thank you. You know? I
It's not a
mean,
life or death situation.
no, but when you're doing stuff like that, you always want to try, and that's what I did
Exactly.
when I was majoring in music and I was going through all that. I did my fair share of competitions, so I understand the mindset, and
Oh
I
yeah,
agree with you. It doesn't hurt to try.
not at all.
Like I said, what is someone going to say? Oh, thank you very much for your submission, and that's it. And that's all
Right,
you have to do. That's it.
right. I mean, even then, there's an advantage to that. You recorded something as something of a signpost in your career, and you could still dovetail off of that success, even if the success is just recording yourself. So there's nothing wrong with it at all. In fact, it's a good kind of litmus test for your own
Nice.
career and how you're doing. Yeah,
So you have a master's degree in music, and it is from the University of New Mexico.
that's right.
So is that what brought you to New Mexico originally, was coming here because of your master's degree?
That's correct. So after I got my undergraduate in 2009, I stayed in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and had a fairly large private studio for a year. And then I get a call from Jim Decker saying that there was a brass quintet GA opening, graduate assistant opening at the University of New Mexico, and that I should audition. And I was just like, well, I wasn't planning on doing that because I was building my studio, and it was a fairly lucrative time. I was very happy with the way that things were kind of springboarding, and I was performing and doing jazz club nights at like jam nights at the local jazz club in Fort Worth called the Scat Lounge.
Hmm.
Um, and I was doing pretty well, and then I get this call, and I come out and audition, and Dr. Eric Robot Kendall contacts me back and says that I got the position, and came here in 2010, and basically got my performance degree master's requirements first, and then at my at my orals examination, Dr. Rick Herman convinced me to stay on and tack on an additional year to 2 years and do a theory comp studies as well. And I
Hmm.
did it mostly in composition. And so I tacked on an additional 2 years. So I was there from 2010 to 2014 for
Okay.
a dual master's in performance and theory comp. Yeah,
Okay, so it was when you were here at UNM is when you entered and you were able to enter the competition for trombone.
that's right.
So when you were pursuing your master's and what you got here. So you have a Bachelor of Arts degree in trombone performance, and then you have a bachelor's, is it Bachelor of Music? a master's of music. I'm sorry, a master's of music in trombone performance and theory and composition, right?
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct.
Wow. Okay.
You can thank Rick Herman for that, Dr. Herman.
Yeah,
He
that's
he
okay.
convinced me.
That's all right. We're all benefiting from it right now. Trust me when I say that.
Oh, thanks.
So you teach at UNM now, don't you?
Yeah, so I off and on teach music technology courses, and in fact, we are just starting up like an audio tech minor. So it's like audio production, and we're kind of running the test of that right now, starting this semester. So there are a lot of courses that need to be filled, but over the years, I've taught music technology, like fundamentals of music tech, recording techniques. I've taught orchestration. I was kind of a utility for music appreciation area for about 2 years between the main campus and the West campus. And then several other tidbits here and there, but they were mostly just composition related courses that I've been teaching. And so I'm kind of used as a filler, although Dr. Gilbert wants me to take on more of a load. And once my son gets old enough, then I'll be able to do that. So,
Well, yeah.
yeah.
Well, wait. So you okay? Besides everything that I already mentioned, go back to this music technology thing because you're
Uh-huh.
heavily involved with this. Is this something you have a degree in that you're teaching this, or you're able to teach this because of your knowledge?
So in middle school, I started actually kind of autodidactically making music with digital audio workstations and things like that. And so in high school, that started to evolve, taking formal courses. And then I was involved with producing music on the side and DJing on the side whenever I was in college. So usually like club electronic music kind of stuff, and produced uh, a bunch of albums. I think 5 or 6 throughout high school and college. And then when I came to graduate school, all of that kind of intersected when I gave a recital that was all new or newly composed trombone music with fixed media and trombone, or interactive media and trombone. And one of those pieces was one of mine that I composed for fixed media and trombone, but it was very synthesizer based, I guess it's kind of old school synthesizer esque music, kind of like Jean-Michel Jarre or
Okay.
Kraftwerk or Vangelis, those guys.
Mm-hmm.
Very much in that vein, but with trombone. And then I get invited by Manny Rettinger to come jam with his chuppers. And I think that the experience that I got with him totally changed my life on how to approach electronic music and composition. And so I was involved with the Chuppers for a number of years and with his group Martian Funk for a number of years, and then just started composing more and more and more. And then C.K. Barlow, I was in her music technology class as a graduate, and she asked me if I was interested whenever she left uh, to move elsewhere, if I was interested in managing the music technology lab, and that's what I currently do. So I've been
And the
doing
music
that since.
technology, wait. So the music
Yeah,
technology lab specifically is what? So I understand it.
yeah. The music technology lab at UNM is called the MAST Lab, so Music and Sound Technology Lab. And there we have students who take music technology courses as part of their fine arts curriculum or part of their technology credit. And it could be both majors or non-majors. But that's where all the classes are held. It's a room that's filled with computers as well as audio interfaces, It has a synthesizers.com system that's kind of in the vein of Moog synthesizers from like the late 60s.
Hmm.
And they learn the basics of synthesis, how to sample, how to record properly, how to arrange and mix and
Okay.
master, and you name it. Yeah, but
Okay.
that's where
So
they take
it's
all the
boy.
courses.
So boy, you really are a jack of all trades, aren't you?
I'm
Because
trying.
oh my God. And we haven't even gotten to some of the other things that you do
Yeah, it seems like we got a long. This is just the tip of the iceberg.
because golly, I mean, you're such a wonderful trombone player. You do all this stuff, but you are also heavily involved with music technology, recording industry, and creating music. And I
Mhm.
have seen some of your compositions. They belong on artwork on the wall the way they look.
Oh,
I
absolutely,
mean,
yeah.
oh my goodness. Well, you'll have to that's a whole nother story. We'll have to
Oh,
save that
sure.
for another interview.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
I will put links down below that show some of your works and some of your stuff that you've done
Oh,
because
please.
I am just okay. I thought I knew a lot about you until I started doing this research. And even after the research, I still don't know squat.
You're making me remember go in the deep recesses of my memory here. Like I have to think
Oh,
about where all those things started.
oh
So
my
I'm thankful
God.
for the questions and the
Oh,
curiosity.
so okay, wait. I have to recap this. Let's see. Jazz trombonist, classical trombonist. You're a UNM teacher. You have a master's degree. You're a composer. You teach recording. You teach how to record. You teach sampling. You keep it great. You're a composer, but you have written everything from art music to electronica, avant-garde, video games, podcasts. Oh my God, is there anything that you haven't recorded? Is there anything that you haven't done that you still want to do?
Um, so that's a funny question. I'm actually doing everything that I want to do. I just wanted to expand, and that's what's been happening. Lately, like even the past 3, 4 years, I've been making music for even like corporate training videos, and that's been really fascinating. But there's like this for me. What's interesting about all these different composition avenues is how different they are from one another, how you approach it, and I'm learning a ton. Not even just by trial and error, but trying to be as thoughtful about it when approaching it the first time as I can be and making the clients happy so that I don't have to do a bunch of revisions. Now, it is fun whenever I get, clap back and need some revisions done and they give some interesting guidelines for what they want and figuring that out. But I'm just more of like a learner. I want to do as much as I possibly can and expand and try and find new ways to do it. And if I find time to do it, great. But yeah, I really enjoy all of the different things that keeps the brain entertained for
Well,
sure.
and you've even won a competition. Like I think if I remember correctly, you won
Yeah,
a composition contest
that's right.
back. I would have been like, well, if I get my dates correct, it would have been you were finishing up your master's degree, but you won a competition for composition for one of your compositions, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah. The Scott Wilkinson competition is kind of in conjunction with the J.D. Robb Composer Symposium. And the Scott Wilkinson competition is for student composers to input their scores in this competition so that they can have a live performance of it. And of course, there's a prize too, but have a live performance of it at the symposium. And this was my score, Separation of Light and Darkness, for chamber winds and fixed media. And it was quite something. The it's only been performed a handful of times, but I mean Byron Harrington was the trombone player. I had some friends that were doing the woodwinds, some colleagues of mine, really great pianist who teaches at UNM right now, Christian, and all sorts of. There was like an all-star group, and everybody was just so invested in it. I mean, I felt like I just put notes on a paper, put notes on page, and I directed the thing, and they all made the music, and I just could. It was amazing. That was really
Isn't it
fun.
nice when you hear something come to fruition like
It
that?
was it was incredible, Michael. I
I
mean,
bet it was.
I think that was really the first time that I was like actually feeling good about like a live performance of like a premiere of a piece that I composed. And I think that that was a big confidence builder. But that competition was so much fun. Again, taking a chance,
Yeah.
just like we talked about, just put it in there. What's the worst that they could say,
Right.
So it
So
was
I have a
great.
question. So explain to me, because you've said this term a couple of times and I want to understand it correctly. You
Sure.
said for fixed media.
Uh-huh.
Define that. What does that mean?
Well, a lot of people call it, say, like tape music, something that's fixed. You can't, it's not, it's performable in that it's playable on some kind of a medium, so like tapes or
Oh, okay.
CDs or a recording, but you can't change it, right? It's
Right.
fixed. So this is like, for this, it was actually a track in Logic that I had to conduct with so that all of the events would be in line with all of the acoustic events. All the
Okay.
electronic events would be in line. So that's fixed. That's a fixed
Okay.
part of the score.
Now I
Yeah.
understand that. Okay. So now I understand fixed media because you said that term a couple of times. I'm like, okay, wait. Okay. I have to make sure I understand this because I'm sure somebody else out there was going, okay, what does that mean? Then there's
Yeah.
probably people out there that like, oh, I know exactly what that means.
Think of it. Think of it this way. The Jamie Aebersold CDs. That's
That's
fixed
fixed
media.
media.
Yeah, you
Got it.
can't change it. Yeah,
Yeah.
but you could perform
It's
with it, right?
right. Well, same thing with iReal Pro. You can
Yeah.
perform with it. You don't always want to, but you can perform with it.
Right. Exactly.
So let's talk about your performing because we've established the fact that you are prolific when it comes to all these things you get involved with. But we haven't touched on your performing because oh my God, you have done so many things. You perform with the Albuquerque Jazz Orchestra.
Hmm.
You perform with Entourage Jazz. You perform with a group called Dogbone, which is,
Yeah,
if I
that's me
remember
and
correctly,
Jefferson. Yeah,
right. It's
Jefferson
percussion
Voorhees.
and trombone, right?
Yeah, and all sorts of other things too. Whatever we pick up, But yeah, yeah.
And you play with Santa Fe Pro Musica. You've played with the New Mexico Philharmonic. You've played with the Opera Southwest.
Hmm.
And then the one we're going to touch on, because this is the one I want you to talk about, you also play with, and God, I hope I'm going to get this right. It's Barakutanga,
That's
right?
right, Barakutanga. Yeah.
I got it
Um,
right.
so Barakutanga is a South American styled group, and it's more roots South American. So it's not salsa. We're not a salsa band. But I was invited to play with them as like an additional horn, along with a saxophonist and a trumpet player, Paul Gonzalez, and the saxophone player, Chad James. They were both part of the band back then. This was around 2014, 15. And they were doing a sister bar show. And they invited me to play, so I learned all the tunes. And then a few weeks later, they were just like, "How would you like to join the band as a member?" I was like, "Okay, yeah, sure." But I've learned a ton of just understanding South American styles, particularly Colombian, Brazilian, Bolivian, Ecuadorian, and Peruvian styles, or Afro-Peruvian styles and Afro-Colombian styles. A little bit of Central American stuff and Cuban stuff, but for the most part, I mean, I didn't know anything, hardly anything about it. I just knew, kind of picking up by ear, what the styles were, and as the years went by, they kept teaching me things. All the members, which we have members from Peru, from
Mhm.
Ecuador, from Bolivia, and back then, Nick Baker, who was with us, he was very skilled in Colombian styles, still is, and sometimes he still comes back and hangs out with us and plays with us. So I've been learning all these different styles over the years, and rhythms, and how to approach performing the music and writing the music.
Mhm.
And so I guess there's that want to learn, and that idea that I'm pushing forward the things that I knew, what I didn't know. I want to learn.
Well, it's a very unique
Yeah,
style of music. And now you're
yeah,
the only
yeah.
horn player now, right?
Yeah, I mean, on the bigger shows, we have Paul play with us, and things like that. But by and large, I do like trombone, and sometimes I have effects on my trombone, so it sounds like a couple of different horns and things like that. But primarily speaking, if we're doing, say, like a marble show, marble brewery show, I'll be the trombone player, only horn player.
Okay.
Yeah, and other kinds of venues like that. And but I've been a primary member since, or I guess they would call me a founding member, but they've been around for 14 years, so I wasn't quite around whenever they were at their founding, but they've established that that I'm a valuable member, and I'm very
Well,
thankful
you
for
are
that.
a valuable member.
We've grown as a family together. It's really impressive
Well,
how
now you guys
everybody's just so
toured,
cool.
right? You
We
guys
did. We went down to
toured South America.
That's right. So at this point in time, we're speaking in 2023. This was back in February of 2023. We went down there for Carnival in Bolivia, and we were there for 2 weeks. We played a handful of shows, and Dave Flores, you had him on your show, I believe, actually. Dave Flores and we actually ran a local jazz jam at a club down in La Paz. And it went until clear, like 3 in the morning or something like that. But we couldn't find, we kept finding more things to play. We couldn't find a stopping point. So it was really, really fun. And the musicianship down there is super great. But yeah, lots of diverse experiences down there. We got a bunch of writing material that we want to try out, learn some new instruments. Got to know the culture and went to Lake Titicaca at Isla del Sol, and it was mind blowing. Totally,
I bet it was.
totally different. It was mind blowing.
I bet
I'm
it was.
thankful.
I bet that was a heck of an experience.
Yeah, it
Okay.
was.
So here's a question that I have to ask because as a musician and as a former teacher or someone who was working full time and trying to be a musician, how do you balance everything? How do you balance your teaching duties with all the things that you want to write and your performing and your family? Obviously you've got a son, you got a family. So how do you balance all of that and still make everything work?
Well, it's not all figured out. I'll put that out there. It's definitely a work in progress, and things keep changing too. My wife, when we first got married, she knew that my life was going to be relatively busy, particularly when it comes to like night and weekend things. So she works a day job. I work more around the nights, or if I'm at UNM, it's like the mornings into the early afternoons and things like that. But all that said, there was an understanding from the very beginning that we want to support each other in our careers. So that support already is, that's a foundation. And I'm very thankful for that. But she is also very good at encouraging me to make lists, to keep my calendar up to date, which I'm still woefully bad at. But she is very organized compared to me, who's the flighty one, And so I've gleaned a lot from her advice over the years, and especially when it comes to the calendar, I pretty much have to live by the calendar. And sometimes it gets as bad as just like, well, what am I doing the next day? Like I can't really look like a week ahead and prepare for it. But all that said, I do have a rough schedule of the week during the day. There is a structured schedule of I go to UNM 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, from this time to this time. I pick up my son from school, and then get some stuff done in the afternoon while my son's present. And Tuesdays and Thursdays are project and composition days and rehearsal days. So, and then I teach private lessons on Wednesday evenings, generally. And then I leave open Fridays and Saturdays for gig days, and then Sunday is a rest day, as much as I can have a rest on Sundays or travel days. So yeah, so there's a rough schedule. Like a template, I should say.
Yeah, I would say it's a template. It's it's the hardest thing is when you have family and you're doing all the things you do, is how do you balance that time and how do you balance everything. Everything's on the calendar, everything's booked in advance. Everything is done here. Everything is done through that because you have to make that time.
Yeah.
And especially you're a composer, you have to have that time.
I touch compositions every day. I at least touch them every day, you know, or listen to them or something, so that I'm not having to catch up all the time on my project days. But I think the most useful thing, besides having the calendar and having like a template to work with, the most useful thing, I think the most powerful thing that a musician, or, you know, anybody that's working with a bunch of different things, kind of jack of all trades, is you have the power to say no to things. You really do. Like, don't be afraid to say no. I know that there are people out there that will say, you got to take every gig, push yourself, you know, this and that. But I can't do that. If I shift the balance to where I don't get family time, my home life is miserable. And I think that that's more of where the focus has been really since I got married. It's been a work in progress toward having more time with my family, with my wife. And so if that's the primary thing in focus, then everything is working toward that, right? I want that to be the primary focus. So I want to take scheduling seriously. I want to do things that will help me to be able to spend more time with my family, and that means saying no to a lot. I don't want to do everything.
Right.
I want to, yeah. And I'm finally getting to that point to where I can do that. Not everybody says that, but I'm thankful that I'm able to do that. And it's just being assertive. It's just having your boundaries, and it's okay. You should.
No. Yeah. It's knowing when to say no. And I like to do everything, and sometimes you can't.
Yeah. Just be truthful, know your limitations, and commit. Commit to the things that you said you're going to commit to, and make the decisions based off of your own limitations, and be honest with your own limitations. Like, you don't want to stretch yourself. You don't want to stress yourself out, or your family. That's where I'm at least. It means I'm going to miss out on some opportunities, but I have the opportunities that I want, at least right now. They're taking me places.
Lot of opportunities. Yeah, you do.
Exactly.
And you're creating those opportunities. The other thing that I find that has helped me balance everything is the Google Keep option, or the Google Keep app on my phone, because I will be going along and I'll hear something. Oh, what the hell is that? And so I'll jot down notes, and I go back and I organize my notes, and I've got things in there going, where did that come from? Wait, what was I thinking? What did I hear when I typed down that, or I have an idea for a song, and it's like, oh, wait. And then I'll type out this chord progression, and then I'll come back to it, and I'll go, where the hell did I come up with this? So the notes function on my phone has been a godsend for me, because it helps me keep me organized along with the calendar. So anyway, so let's talk about a couple more things for you.
Sure.
Where can we find your music? Is it available on all the streaming services?
Yeah, actually. So my music that has been released under the alias Foxer Mod, that's my modular synth music, that is on Spotify and music outlets and things like that. My media music and examples that I use for media music is kind of like a calling card situation. I have a YouTube channel, MJ Hood Music.
Okay, I'll put a link down below.
Yeah, MJ Hood Music for YouTube, and then of course Facebook and Instagram. You can look up Micah Hood on both of those.
I'll put links down below.
Yeah, but I mainly use social media as calling cards, and that's how I've gotten clients over the years. I put examples of work up, reels, and things that people can actually use in projects. I've had many college students that are in programming and video game programming institutions and things like that have literally just ripped off my YouTube stuff, which I don't post final mixes on YouTube anyway, but they've ripped it off, and they even include it in their projects and things like that. So it's pretty interesting. But in that sense, I'm totally okay with that. I don't post the the master stuff on YouTube, but it is like a calling card, and that's what I use
Mhm.
social media for. And when it comes to my modular synth music, I'm part of the abused electronics community, AE modular synthesizers, and which is a new format. And we are kind of a community of people that we have a forum, and we keep track of each other's works and support each other. And I think my album, Dead City EP for Foxer Mod, is the first ever all AE modular synthesizer album to be put on Spotify. So that's a pretty unique experience.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, but there's that side of things. There's the orchestral music and transcriptions and video game music that goes on YouTube, and then other social
I've
media
seen
like
some of your transcriptions. You've written out some things that people are like, you did what for fun?
yeah, no, it's so much fun. Orchestral transcriptions. So I mean, that's how I learn to find the colors by ear that I want. Is taking what other people have done that haven't been scored yet, and just figuring out how it all fits within an orchestral framework, so that I can use those tools later. It's a really cool way of doing orchestration. It's like taking the jazz transcription method, except for a full orchestra, and using that vocabulary. You know, that's
It's
I
absolutely,
love that.
trust me, it's absolutely amazing. I am in awe of your talent because it's something that I never had. I can't, my ear, I call it ear training. I know it's called something different nowadays. My ear training is crappy. I
I
have a
still
hard
know it
enough
as ear
time.
training too.
My ear
But,
training is I when I interviewed Bruce Dalby, he called it something completely different, and I was like, okay, I don't know that term. I said, is that ear training? He said, yeah, that's ear training. Oh, okay, perfect. But
think about
yeah,
what all skills acquisition or
yeah,
something like
something
that. I don't know
like that.
something.
Yeah. But
Anyway,
I to take stuff I have when I start listening to transcriptions, like when I'm learning a solo, like a Count Basie, Snooky Young solo or something like that, Duke Ellington type band solo. I want to hear it. And so I kind of listen to it and I can take things off. But man, you're writing out stuff, all those lines are
mm,
way over my head, way over my head. So my compliments to you for the fact
oh,
that you can do it.
thank you. It's a lot of work. I mean, it's not without its work. I mean, talent is
Oh,
only one part of it. And even then, I'm building that. But it's the work that goes into it has built over time, and I'm glad that I early spent time doing ear training and doing transcription and doing arranging whenever I was in middle school and high school. That stuff builds over time
yeah.
if you keep at
And you
it.
know what? If you don't
Yeah,
use it, you lose it. That's a talent
it's
you have to
true.
use.
It is true.
My compliments to you. So I've got time for one last question. I always ask this question, and we'll
Okay.
see what you come up with. So, strangest gig,
Oh,
funniest story of a gig that happened to you that you can tell us about. Trust me, I've had everything from super boring to super weird. What do you got for me?
oh goodness. Okay, so in Durango, I was playing with Barakutanga, and it was my birthday. We were up there for the local university that's up there. In Durango, I think it's Fort Lewis. I
Oh, that's
think
right, Fort Lewis College.
but either way, the university that's up there, they put on a summer series, and so it was my birthday. I was feeling pretty good. It was performing on my birthday, and then all of a sudden, this dog, because we're on this big stage, right? And all of a sudden, this dog comes up on the stage and doesn't want to leave while we're performing, and so I have to like put down my horn while we're like, doing a cumbia or something like that. And I'm just like, I don't know what to do with this dog. And so I just like carried it off stage and kept coming back to my horn. And it kept coming up, like it kept coming up to me. Like, it somehow knew I was like the friendliest person or something. But I have a picture of that dog, like my holding that dog somewhere. But it just kept coming back and coming back. And it just like made the crowd go wild that the dog was the superstar. But it was no longer about me. It was no longer about the band. It was just the dog.
Oh, dog.
So yeah. Oh man, that dog.
Oh.
But it
That's
wasn't a
funny.
problem. It was just I don't think
I
I've
know.
ever had that kind of thing happen ever. But just a random dog. I don't even know if it was a stray or anything. But I just kept having to pick it up like it needed to be consoled. But it was it was really
Oh,
quite
that's a good one.
something.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, see, now that's a good story. All right, so we're running out of time. I
All
want to
right.
thank Micah for joining me. I want to thank you for all the things you do. I am in awe of all the things that you do. You keep playing the trombone. You keep giving us all this crazy music. And ladies and gentlemen, we'll catch you next time.